everyone, today I'll be reviewing this new movie just dropped on Netflix, Deadly Illusion, starring Kristen Davis, Greer Grammer, Dermot Mulroney, and this movie is directed by Anna Elizabeth Zane. So in this movie, Kristen Davis, she plays a writer, Mary Morrison. She's kind of like, she used to be a very famous writer. Like she has wrote a couple of books and they were really famous and she still get checks from it. So that's how her life was. Then her husband, played by Dermot Mulroney, he gets into some debt. Then like she need to write a book again to get like to pay off her debt, like her husband debt. So when she need to write this book, she basically hired a nanny to look after her two children. And this nanny named Grace, played by Greer Grammer, she shows up to her home to get this nanny job. She basically hires her. Then after that, the strangest things start happening to her life. So this movie, overall, what I thought about this movie. So I must say the first act for this movie was quite well done, especially the way this movie set up for the middle act and the last act. I thought the first act was quite interesting, especially the music choice. Keep playing this weird music and I was expecting big reveal end of this movie, which I get to it. It's spoiler, so I don't want to get it right away. I'll get to it in a second. So first act for this movie, I found it like I was thinking to my, oh, it's pretty good, especially the way the character set up for Mary Morrison, played by Kristen Davis. She's a writer, but she has this problem. She writes, she goes into very dark place. So then like everything around her become very blurry for her, which is, I understand, writing books or anything, it's hard. So I see what this movie was trying to do in the first act. I was like, oh, it's interesting, let's go with it. But after the first act, the middle act, for this movie, it was so ridiculous. I was like, what the especially like halfway this movie becomes so ridiculous. I was like, and then when you go to the last act for this movie, it's even more ridiculous. And after finishing this movie, I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking back, why we spent so much of our time learning about Mary Morrison when her story doesn't have any meaning in the end? Shouldn't we have spent our time with the other character? Especially the way you tell us about the other character, like why we didn't get more time with her? That is like, I feel like direction for this movie, for me, feels really awful. Like, especially the movie started so good. Last act, really, it's is this movie gonna be liked by some people? Of course, some people may like this movie, but I found this movie quite frustrating at the end of this movie. I feel like a lot of my time was wasted with the character. They don't have bigger story here. Without giving a spoiler, overall, I feel like this movie didn't have the payoff it was promising, and especially the twist it has given us. There isn't enough backstory to it, so like you feel frustrated after watching it. So now I'll get to the spoiler. So if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know, is it worth checking out? It's depend. If you like the cast, then you could check it out if you have nothing to see. Otherwise, I don't recommend people see this. Like, anyway, so the last, now I'm going to spoiler. So in the last act, you learn about Grace. She has this psychosis problem in her head, like but basically in the last act, she has dual personality. One is Grace and another one is something. Because this movie, although in the way it was going, like in the present time, it shows you right the way, what was she doing, like all the things she did in this movie. The way it revealed, it was ridiculous. I was like, is this real or she's thinking? Especially Morrison's character, I was like, is she thinking or is real? I had this doubt in my mind, but I guess if you go back, that was what was happening in the present time. And when I get to the last act, the way she just like do this thing to her husband, and he was just standing there, then she just came, and I was like, last act for this movie, truly, it was ridiculous. I was like, especially this movie could have been worked if we got more backstory about Grace's character. Because end of this movie, when you look back and think about Grace displays any, like especially especially when you look back and think back, like Grace, she never displayed any like weird behavior when she first started working in her home. So when end of this movie, you tell me like she's a crazy person, you just didn't give me ever enough evidence to believe that. So I am like sitting here and thinking, I don't believe it. That being said, the way this Grace actress, she's so beautiful, by the way, Greer Grammer, her name. This movie, this director, I think she might be gay, I think. She spent so much of her time showing you her boobs, her back, her neck, and everything. I was like, you are into her, aren't you? I was thinking about this director. She's a pervert. Anyway, end of the day, this is a chick flick. I don't think this like a chick flick need to have this like a twist here. The saddest part about this movie is like the Mary Morrison. When she find out like her husband was sleeping with Grace, and when she got sad or upset, and I was here thinking, are you upset because like Grace is sleeping with your husband, or you're upset that Grace lied to you and stopped sleeping with you and sleeping with your husband? What is the like reason you're so mad? Like that's how this movie was. Because end of the day, she like doing this thing with her? Like why you are now mad at your husband? Doesn't make any sense. Especially when you were doing all this thing with Grace. Now that your husband doing, why you are mad? You have no right to be mad. You know what I mean? That's how I felt about it. This character. Overall, I will say Kristen Davis, she gave believable performance, and Dermot Mulroney, I thought he was also okay in this movie. And this actress, Greer Grammer, Grace, so her character is the one I had problem because her character wasn't very well written, so I did not like her that much, I suppose. But end of this movie, like you do see she's walking out of that the psychiatric facility. So anyway, that was my thought on this movie. Thank you so much for checking this out. Let me know in the comment, what do you think about this movie? Did you have a good time watching it? And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to subscribe and take care.